Welcome to the Purpose for Life podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Roberts, author of It's Deeper Than That and founder of The Great Reconnection. And I am thrilled and honored to have with us here today Amber Mays, all the way from California. Thank you, Amber, so much for joining us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'd like for you to share with our audience here today the intersections that you live within your identity. And then I'd like to take people on a journey through your uncovering of those intersections towards your radiant wholeness.
My mother was from Greece originally. She came over to the States when she was 19, and my father is Black. He grew up in Albany, Georgia. My grandmother would say I'm saying that wrong. I don't have the Albany, the accent. I was raised in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just over the river from Boston. So my upbringing was as a mixed race, multicultural person living in adjacent to a very segregated city growing up. I grew up in an environment that was, I would say, working class. We were middle class. And the reason that's important to me is because I saw the intersections of all kinds of differences and systems of dominance and oppression, and was very aware of those growing up. So my identity has really been shaped by all of that. And navigating who am I in a system that asks me to be one thing or the other. And, my journey, especially early on, was finding out who I really am, what's important to me, what my identity is, and being very clear in myself in that because the world around me wanted to kind of tear me apart.
I appreciate what you're saying in terms of the complexity of everything that's inside of you, and people don't like that complexity and want to pigeonhole you. And first of all, what did people project onto your identity?
So many projections from most people. People thought I was white. Um, I do present as white, and so I would often get not just surprise from folks about my Black identity, my Black heritage, but also folks arguing with me about it as if they knew
Wow.
better. Surely you're wrong about that. There's no way that you can be Black. You look white. It's really amazing what people will actually say out loud. Some folks actually would see that I was something other than white. And so I would get a lot of, what are you? Not who are you, but what are you
What
from
are you?
strangers. Yeah. That's a common one that I think a lot of mixed race folks will identify with. But a lot of objectifying, a lot of confusion, a lot of folks trying to put me in a box and assuming that they knew better than me about who I should be.
I just want to take a breath there. People assuming better than you. That's intense. And also when you were talking, it just all sounded so dehumanizing. What are you? Not who are you? No curiosity or wanting to discover and learn or understand.
No, it was a knowing, from ego. I know you better than you. And the dehumanization it's a really good term for it. I also experienced being exoticized, right? You're so different. You're so, just I've never seen anyone like you. It's interesting because a lot of folks think that's a compliment, but it's actually quite objectifying. And that was very much my experience growing up.
Would you be willing to share the story about being in I think it was elementary school, and then when your Black dad.
Yeah, my parents had just transferred me to a Quaker school, actually, in Cambridge, the Cambridge Friends School. And it was, I would say, not just predominantly white. I would say there were a handful of people of color. at the time. And I remember it was my first day of school, it was fourth grade. And, all that belonging stuff was up, trying to find friends, trying to belong. And so at the end of the day, we were all going to our cubbies and getting all our stuff. And I saw all the heads turn towards the door. And I looked, and there was my dad coming to pick me up. The only black face in the school at that time, definitely in my class at that moment. And a kid next to me said, "Well, who is that?" Because she could see that I knew who it was. And I said, "Well, that's my daddy." And she said, "Well, that can't be your daddy. He's brown. You're not." And I remember not just the words, but I just remember this feeling inside of me that was this deep fear. It was a feeling that I was just about to be fully ostracized, right? That I
Mm.
was different. For me, this was just my dad, right? This is who I was. This is all normal to me. But I felt viscerally, before I even had words for it, that things were about to shift, that this was something that put me on the outs. And I carry that with me today, actually. It's a very visceral feeling in my system that I still work with.
Your blackness got outed that day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way to say it.
And how did you come to term with your Black identity? And were you able to celebrate it, or did you see it as a threat to belonging?
I often just find so much appreciation for how my parents raised me, because I think if it had not been for the ways that my parents modeled loving not just each other, but loving each other's family, loving each other's heritage, I think I would not have been strong enough to be able to see that, blackness was me. It was a part of me. It was a beautiful thing. And,
Mm.
the people that I grew up with here were my dad's family. So when we went for holidays, it was my black cousins and, aunts and uncles, and that was family to me. And, it was very important for my mom for me to have that experience, as it was for my dad for me to go to Greece and see my family there. So the answer to your question, I think, is complicated, because it's not that I didn't have moments of, I always felt like I didn't want to be other, right? I always felt like I wanted to fit in and belong. And whiteness is so enticing, right? I think we're all unpacking our internalized white supremacy, at
Yes.
least those of us who are conscious.
Yes.
Um, but the way I held it in me was, I'm not confused. I know who I am. I just have to be really intentional about how I interact with the world around me, because if I'm not careful, I will be pulled in all kinds of directions, pulled apart, pulled towards whiteness, told I'm not who I am, told that I'm confused. I heard that a lot when I was younger, that mixed race kids shouldn't exist because they're just going to be confused, or they're an abomination, or, the term mulatto was very popular then, literally mule. So it was kind of a both and, right? Just constantly finding my center about who I was in a very toxic system.
And being white passing. It's interesting because when I met you, I didn't see you as white passing. I saw you as black, and I'm not sure how that happened or why. And
Yeah.
you say you're white passing, and then you get white privilege
Yes.
while you're black inside. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes.
And that has to be also very complicated.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yes, I do know. I knew exactly what you're saying.
I'm thinking about it because you know racial harm.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
saw racial harm when your dad walked in that day and you understood something.
Mhm.
that moment.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling something here, that knowing that harm is here and you also can benefit. What does that
Mhm.
mean for you? What does that mean for your dad? What does that mean? How confusing that I feel that, and I feel like, "Uh," like
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
it makes me shake my head.
Yeah. I mean, even as you're talking about it, I can feel it in my body. And this is what I mean by the system being so toxic and, complex. So all of those things were and still are in the water that I swim in. And so to be white passing, I had a friend one time say, Amber, you come out in every environment that you're in so quickly. Like I have to tell people my identity and my racial identity. And I said, it's funny that you say that. I don't even realize I'm doing it. And it's a defense mechanism to kind of say, no, you don't get to tell me who I am. I'm going to tell you who I am first. And to claim who I am before the system has its way with me, right? So very important. And the whiteness it's a thing. I mean, I have been tracking my privilege since I was very young. My parents they did social justice work as well. So I had language for these dynamics very early on. And I paid attention to race in every single room I walked into. I still do because I'm constantly sorting, what's my experience going to be here? Am I going to be let in? Am I going to be pushed out? Am I going to be told who I am? Even in all Black settings,
Yeah.
the question is, are they going to trust me? I understand why they wouldn't, right? Look at me. And so, yeah, I've thought about it in my own family. It's you talk a lot about tapestry. It's woven into the
Mhm.
tapestry of my life in a very deep way.
Two things are coming up for me. One is survival and then also proud dignity. And
Mm-hmm.
also like be careful what you say around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in a room with you that was predominantly white and people didn't know. I even missed racial harm happening because it was to the two Black women that were in the room and I forgot to come to you and say, how is it hitting you?
Mm-hmm.
Because it had to be. And
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't even know it was hitting you. That's the thing. They'd think you're one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, I'm just thinking about that right now. That's so intense. And yet it was so harmful in there
It was.
and no
It was.
accountability to the harm, and it's like, and you'll feel it in every cell of your body. And that's exhausting. And
It
I
is.
think it's very crucial that you let people know.
I do too. Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, we shouldn't have to. And at the same time, I think it's smart.
I appreciate that reflection. I agree. And what you just reflected back is very much my experience of, I'm having an experience internally that nobody can see.
Yes.
That is an experience of harm. And, the term microaggressions, it's so interesting when you actually read about it, it it's because it's happening in the micro environment, right? So it's not because it's little, like it's,
Right. It's their
of
macro,
harm,
but it's a
right? Yeah.
micro environment. Exactly. I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So I often experience microaggressions that are not witnessed by anybody else, right? That include, oh, you're one of us, until they realize I'm not. And then things start to fly at me. It's a very unique experience. I do a lot of protecting is the word that's coming to mind, but it's really a lot of removing myself from environments to take care of myself, to reground and reconnect. And if I'm not careful, I still work this where instead of setting boundaries intentionally, I'm desensitizing because I need to leave the situation. It's too hard, it's too harmful. And that's one of the things that I've been learning from you and your work, Suzanne, that I love so much, is how do I stay present with myself, not abandon myself in these situations where harm is happening and I feel like someone just cornered me in an alley and nobody can see what's happening, right?
It's hitting me really intensely. I have tears right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is just happening, and I'm letting it happen because it's intense to listen to and to imagining you having to navigate all that and the complexity of it. People think you're one of us, and you're in the harm, and you have no witness. And
Mhm.
are you trusted by the black folks? And where do you go? Who do you have? It's like, and there was something you once said to me about, somebody said to you about being biracial that changed your thinking about yourself. It was a man. Do you remember what?
Oh, yes, I do remember. It was Lee Moon-hwa, who is an artist, a filmmaker, social justice activist, who at that time, this was in my 20s, it was early 20s. I was facilitating a group at Harvard School of Education. It was a race conversation, and we had just watched his film, The Color of Fear. And we were all introducing ourselves. He had us go around and say who we were and what our racial identity was. And so I said my name and I said, I'm half Black and I'm half Greek. And he paused and he looked at me. He said, never half yourself. You are whole. And I mean, I have chills as I'm even saying it now because it was life-changing. I mean, it was like one statement that just sent ripples through my system. Like, what does that mean to not half myself? What does it mean to claim wholeness in a system that insists that I'm not whole, that insists that I divide? And so I changed my language forevermore, of course, because it was just so real what he was calling my attention to. But it also really changed how I had my identity live in my body.
Interesting. What language do you use now?
I say mixed race. I say because I mean,
Mm,
truthfully, race is a social construct, right? It's like there's no half and half. There's no, it's like,
yeah.
if we really go back to our roots, there's all kinds of things living in me,
Yeah,
right?
right, exactly.
It's so complex and nuanced. And sometimes I talk about my Greek identity, and sometimes I talk about my Black identity, and sometimes I talk about my multicultural identity. But I never say I'm half, right? I never say I'm a
Love that.
fraction. I'm whole.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. And how has all of this awareness compelled you into your wholeness and your own inner radiance? And what have you had to do to come home to that?
That's a wonderful question. I I will say that I am forever on that journey. First of all, the things that I've had to do, one of those things is to really curate my environment. And what I mean by that is to really be intentional about the people that I let into my inner circle. There's no protection on the outside. I really feel that. I
Yeah.
don't believe in safe spaces. I
Yeah.
don't, that's just a bunch of BS. As far as I'm concerned, I believe that the safe space is inside, right? And as we connect to source, as we connect to, the truth of who we are, that's safety. But I don't believe it's outside of us. And at the same time, I believe there's discernment about where I put myself because there are environments that are quite harmful. That if I'm with myself, if I'm not abandoning myself, I'm choosing to not walk into those rooms or to go in with a lot of support and a lot of intention about how I'm going to show up, about how vulnerable I'm going to be, about how
Mhm.
much people get to see of what really truly matters to me on the inside,
Mhm.
what my experience is. And so for me, that's not being inauthentic. That's being discerning. It's being really intentional about how I support myself in the world. And then another thing I would say is I take a lot of pauses. I love being in my own energy space. I was just talking to a friend the other day who was like, it wouldn't it be great if we could just like buzz in our own energy all day and not do anything. I love being in the world as well. And I love, connecting with people authentically and deeply. And I require being in my own space, often with nature, to reground to what's true and what's real. And so that's been a practice for me to return to my radiance, to return to my wholeness when the world just feels like it's pulling me in so many directions.
It sounds like you got to witness celebration of uniqueness in your parents. You got to witness love. You got to witness social justice for dignity. And it seems like that could have given you a foundation to search for inside yourself while the world was so difficult to navigate. Is that
Mm,
true?
you really hit it there. This is what I meant when I was talking about my appreciation. My parents did so much good work before I was even a thought in their minds and committed to justice, to equity, to inclusion, to folks of all backgrounds being able to live with dignity and integrity. And so I was born into that. And I
Yeah.
also, it's not like it was easy for them at all times, right? Like it
No.
sounds like a really rosy picture of, these folks, these two people that came together and had such they did have a magic between them, but they also had a lot of conflict and they had to deal with a lot of racism and a lot of being really strong in their intention to raise me in what was at that time an integrated neighborhood in a mixed class environment and to be very thoughtful about the environment that I was exposed to so that not only would I feel like I belonged is the word that's coming up, but I don't think it's that. It's that I could be unique, that I had
Mm,
some foundation and support for that, but also so that I could really see up front and personally what it was to be in the system of dominance and oppression and across class and race to see what different experiences were out there, both my own and others, so that even though I went to a white privileged school and went to a couple of them, that my inner world was very clear about the systems of harm that we live in, that I really had an early experience of seeing those systems so that I was not swayed, right? And
right.
you talk about the seduction of whiteness,
Yeah.
that I was really clear that that's what that was a system. Yeah.
Whiteness is designed to protect superiority and comfort and not even know it. We're going to have to begin to wind down. Amber, I'm going to ask you a question here. What do you think the purpose for life is?
That's such a wonderful question. The purpose for life. The word remembering comes up for me, that all of this stuff that we have around us, right? All the constructs that we've been talking about, it's not real. It's, your word for it, form, that lives in me deeply, that this is an experience of what's not real so that we can remember what's true,
Mm,
which is truly that every one of us is connected and a part of and embodying radiant wholeness.
mm.
So yeah, remembering, I think, is the word that comes up today.
Thank you. I love that you said that. I feel in everything that you're saying, there's been a seeking for truth underneath all the disparities and confusion and everything, that there's been something else for you to constantly search for an anchor in, and that your parents had a sense of it and could instill that in you. And will you share with our listeners what you do for work, and then also how people can get a hold of you?
So I am a leadership coach. I work predominantly with leaders who are in marginalized identity groups who are navigating biased systems to help them connect to their radiant wholeness. And in terms of getting in touch with me, they can go to my website, ambermays.com. That's probably the easiest. Mays is Mayes. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and they can find me in all of those great social places too.
Amber and I have talked about, I don't know if or when this might happen, but doing some kind of symposium or something, online symposium, and bring in some other people like Dr. Sarah Austin to do an education, because I don't think people have the education to understand how to unpack these things for greater liberation and freedom and radiance. And I think we can help people have pathways how to do that, just like you have for yourself in the complicated identity. Well, I don't know that the identities are complicated. I think the world sees them as complicated. I think they're pretty interesting and dynamic and creative and alive, but the world finds them very complicated because they can't put you in A or B. And that pisses people off because
Sure
they
does.
want A or B.
Well said.
And you're not an A or B person, so it just
Oh
doesn't work. No, no,
no,
no, no,
never
no.
will be.
No. Amber, thank you so much for being here. I hope to have you back on. I think that we could dig in deeper and talk more for our listeners to live and learn here and grow and evolve.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. This is a wonderful opportunity. We could talk for hours, I'm
Hours.
sure.
Yeah. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. This is the Purpose for Life podcast. We're so grateful you're here today. Subscribe, keep listening. I'm your host, Suzanne Roberts, author of It's Deeper Than That and founder of The Great Reconnection. Until next time, thank you.